Hello and welcome. It's Tina Marie St.Cyr. It's so great to be with you again. Thank you for sharing your wonderful attention and time with me. Today, we're diving into something that you and I probably definitely love, and that is personal growth and progress. So, what drives us to seek personal growth? And I know I'm preaching to the choir here because here you are listening to the podcast. And we know that we love to grow. So we put things in us that allow us to get to the next level. And so I want to share with you today some thoughts about this, and it is definitely a spark of wisdom. So this is one of our really nice, condensed, cohesive segments that give you some food for thought and some ways to up your own game in your life. So welcome again. I was just speaking to a mastermind that I'm in today, and that question was posed to us. And the question was, what has you seek out personal growth? What is it that drives you? What are those outcomes that you're seeking and looking for? And what was really fun to realize in the group that I was in today is that no one said, so that I can get rich, so I can make more money, and, they didn't talk about lifestyle per se. The answers that came through were so I can contribute more, so I can have more time, freedom to spend more time with my children and my family. They said, so I can know that I'm becoming the best version of myself that I am here to be. There was altruistic and internal drives in each one of the answers. And my answer was, I love to improve myself so that I can help other people even more. And I believe that whenever I have those positive mindsets or those ways of being that have me feel happy, then somehow, some way, I'm contributing to the happiness of humanity overall. So, why are you interested in personal growth? What are those driving forces for you? I was doing a little pen to paper, a pen to post-it note actually, and I was looking back on how long have I been driving or desiring personal growth, and it's since my early 20s. Now, whenever I emerged out of university, I was very interested in getting my career and making a living and supporting my household. But personal growth really wasn't on my radar at that time. I'd just come out of university and I'd had a lot of intellectual growth, but not necessarily something that was driving my soul forward or my spirit forward or even my mental or emotional capacity forward. I was really into this cultivation of intellectual stimulation, philosophy, and things of that nature so that I could apply it to work. Then there was this time where I was in a lot of pain. And so the pain came in my relationship and my marriage. And then the pain also came in that at the age of 23, my father was diagnosed with cancer. And he actually passed away before I had my first child, which would have been his first grandchild. Now, my father was 49, and to me, that completely destroyed my belief systems of what life is supposed to be. My blueprint shattered. And I found this amazing hole inside of me, this emptiness that didn't seem to be filled with anything of my normal life of what I was doing, going to work, raising children. I didn't, my stepchild, and then I didn't feel as though I had fulfillment in my life, and it was really painful. And it's been many years since then, so I can actually talk about it now. Back then, nobody asked me about what's going on in my life because the pain was there. So I sought out new perspectives of how do I, without taking meds, which my doctor, my GP definitely kept writing out the prescription and said, here, just take this. But something inside of me knew that isn't the answer. And some of my other friends, to answer their questions about the emptiness in their life or the pain that they were having, what they were doing was going to bars and drinking. And that also did not feel me. I knew there was something not there as an answer for me. So I sought out books. Long before podcasts, I sought out books. I went to the library, I sought out books, and those were around psychology. Psychology led me to transactional analysis. Transactional analysis led me to understandings about Alan Watts. Alan Watts led me to different philosophies that were like Thomas Troward, things of that nature. And then I realized that there's coaching as opposed to therapy. And whenever I realized the difference between coaching and therapy, then I realized I could set the course of my own discovery for myself. So, what I want to share with you today are some things that I learned to guide me and to understand myself more, because that's ultimately what it was about. I want to understand me. I want to understand what drives me. I want to understand what, pisses me off, what makes me happy. And it needed to not be someone else, right? I needed to know that I had power in my life, that I was in control of my destiny. And boy, was that like a brain mess up, because before then it seemed like other people had more power over me than I did. And I had no clue. So understanding who I am, why I am, who I want to be, that was a pivotal different perspective for me. And that was early in my 20s. So I want to share this. And if you're taking notes, awesome. If not, you can go to our website at bonfirecoaching.com, go up there to the podcast, and you can find this episode, and then you can look at the transcription, which will be the show notes. And that way you have the notes of what we're talking about here today. And this title is Personal Growth and Progress, so you can find it again. And so something that I know in my studies that drives our decision making are our human needs. Now, I'm going to go back to when we were little. So we were little, in our family's care all the way up until the age of about 14. And we're realizing that we want to have community and tribe and connection for safety. The number one human need that we have is certainty. Certainty equals safety, and safety is that drive to make sure everything's going to be okay. We're going to have food on the table. We've got a roof over our heads. And at that young age, we don't necessarily understand about money and the need for it. However, other people are taking care of us. So as a young person, we're dependent. And then in that dependence, our primary decision making is from certainty. Then we move into our teenage years. And if you're anything like me, we want to go break the rules and really adventure into life. I didn't break all the rules fast. I was the toe in the water kind of gal. And I loved concerts. I loved going to the school dances. I loved going to football games and basketball games and driving the car with my friends and just experiencing life. So that need that drives us in our teenage years and even into our early 20s is variety. We want variety. We want that uncertainty in life. We're ready to be risk takers. And so we're putting ourselves out there so we can be that sponge of experience. And that's how we learn. Then in our 20s, what drives us is more significance. Who am I? And maybe we're gathering titles behind us as far as degrees, or those letters behind our name, or we're finding out that the part that we can say, this is my identity. And in our 20s, that significance really drives us. Am I important to someone? Am I important to something? Do I have a title? Do I have a job, a role? And those things will be, how we form our identity going forward. So it's really important when we're asking ourselves those questions of who we want to be in the world, that in our 20s, because it's very formative of our identity, that we make the proper decisions and hang out with the really great people, right? Then we move into our 30s, and in our 30s, love and connection begins to really make our decisions for us. We start to settle down. And we start to value what true love is, true connection, not something that's going to drive our identity based on what other people think, but we settle into who we are. Our own authentic nature starts to bloom in our 30s. And that level of love is really heartfelt, and we can connect more with the love of life because we're evolving in this way. Then in our 40s, what really drives us is growth. And that's what we're talking about today, is personal growth. We can have personal growth like I did all the way through my 20s and 30s, but not until I reached my 40s did I realize why I was seeking out personal growth and what will it contribute to? What is it going to define for me? What's my roadmap through here? I was really in this harvesting of data from all over the place, from religion and spirituality and personal growth and philosophy and careers and skills and aptitudes and musical instruments and meeting new people, going to new countries, learning new languages, experiencing new foods and experiences there. Yet it wasn't really defining me and it wasn't defining my pathway. It wasn't changing my pathway in my 20s and 30s. I was cultivating, I was harvesting. But then when I got to my 40s, it started to be something of a, what am I going to do with all of this? Now that I have this, who am I and how is it going to, change the pathway of my life? And oftentimes people come to this area of their life where they're now seeking new career direction, or they start their own businesses. They're going, I don't want to work for someone else. I want to work for myself. But what really is underneath all that is contribution. I want to contribute who I am and how I've grown to something greater than myself. I'm sure you're nodding your head yes on this, right? And then in our 50s, which I'm there, our 50s, we cultivate all of that we've grown and what we've become and how we've contributed. And we want to contribute even more. So oftentimes in our 50s, we take that piece of us and we want to grow something that involves a lot more people. And we want to get people around us. We want to build community. And that level of contribution goes outside of ourselves in something of a one-on-one or maybe like a one-on small groups, but something more palpable and seeable. And we have higher visions for it. Then when we reach our 60s, 70s, and 80s, those times the contribution grows, the peacefulness inside of us grows, and we want to mentor. Maybe we're mentoring our grandchildren. Maybe we're mentoring our friends, and maybe we're mentoring those people that are going to assume the roles of where we've been in our companies or in our organizations. So I wanted to share that with you. And what really, there's two ways we can do everything, right? There in here in Bonfire in our framework, you've heard of me talk of this, and it's an above the line way of being or a below the line way of being with how we approach life. Now, we can go through our 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s, and even centenarians resistant and really striving for either a perfectionism or a control or trying to figure things out. Or we can do things from a receptive place where we're in the flow. So I want to give you a picture of both ways that our evolution can happen. And it really centers around the questions we ask ourselves. So when we ask ourselves below the line questions, we're going to feel stuck. When we ask ourselves below the line questions, we're going to feel as though our life is not enough. And so let's go back through that age brackets of our 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s. And look at it from below the line, because I want you to know this, because if your mind is doing any below the line acrobatics inside of your head, you're going to want to get control of that. You're going to want to have some strategies to shift those ways of being to above the line. That way you find happiness, peace, and fulfillment in your life now, right? So in this mastermind today, my friend Mike Kim brought this forward, and he wrote this article that appeared in Entrepreneur Magazine, and I'm going to share that in the show notes too, so you can go click on that and then also have the article for you to read. And I loved the way this was contained, and at the same time, as I read this, I'm like, oh wow, all of these questions are below the line questions, and I'm going to share why that is. It's because we need energy to have a higher perspective of our life. We need more abundant energy flow, excuse me, energy flow, perspective, connection, to think in a different order. And I want to give you these ways to do this today. So what Mike shared from that article that he did, and he wrote it when he was 36, is in the 20s, we could be asking ourselves from a below the line framework or mentality, what am I supposed to do with my life? Just ask yourself that question right now and see what the energy feels like. What am I supposed to do with my life? Now, that could be an innocent question, or it could really be strangling. Like, what am I supposed to do with my life? Feels in this, comparison mindset, like I'm supposed to figure this stuff out, right? What if instead we ask ourselves, who do I get to become? What experiences do I get to have? What experiences would I love to have? What would I love to do with my life instead of supposed to do with my life, right? So above the line is what would I love to do with my life? What do I get to do with my life? And a below the line question that if we ask ourselves can, over time just feel stuck and not enough is what am I supposed to do with my life, right? So then we move into the 30s. And in the 30s, when Mike wrote this back when he was 36, he said, how am I going to get this all done? Can you feel that? Just ask that question. How am I going to get this all done? I mean, I even put my hands up in the air like, how am I going to get this all done? I was like, I've got this, maybe we have this inspiration, this motivation and this drive and this achievement, this want and these desires. And then we go, oh, how am I going to do it all? I've been there. How am I going to do this all? I've been there, right? And I want to give us an above the line perspective on what also to ask is, who can help me with this? I have all this inspiration. I have all this motivation. I have all this drive, all this desire, all this want. And who can also help me with this? Who can I bring around me in my 30s? Who can I bring around me to help this? How can we do this together? Who can I partner with? Who can I share my experiences with? Instead of thinking we're all alone in this and it's a pressure system, we're not alone. We get to involve other people. Isn't that awesome? And then we move into our 40s. Now, a below the line perspective there could be, why are some of my peers doing better than me? Like we look outside of ourselves and we think, well, here I am. I've got this size house. I've got this kind of car. I've got this career. I've got this relationship. And if we're below the line in our perception of our life, that 5C mind, remember the 5C mind that's been in another one of our podcasts here? The 5C mind is going to complain, criticize, condemn, commiserate, and the biggest one of all, compare. We're going to compare our life to somebody else, and ours is not good enough when we do that. And what we do there is we just pull our power cords out. And that's extremely painful when we think we've been doing the best we can. We've been doing great. And then all of a sudden our lower mind wants to compare ourselves to somebody else. And all of a sudden they're doing good and we're not. Ouch. What I can tell you from my perspective and others is we never really know what everybody's going through. So even though somebody can have that multi-million-dollar mansion, even though other people can totally be rocking the crypto if they got in crypto early, and even though people can totally look like that they have the health or the wealth or the relationships going on, the truth is we're all struggling with something. And that's part of evolution. We require that. So an above the line perspective on the painful question of, why are some of my peers doing better than me, would be, I am grateful for such a great group of peers. I am happy for them. We want to have that perspective. Like if they're doing great, rock on, babes. Let's like get around them and go, awesome, good job, high five. You are brilliant. You are awesome. And what can we do together? If you're not in that peer group and you want to be the ones that will be totally celebratory with you and let's do things together, then maybe you need to up your peer group, right? I have a dear friend of mine whose name is Mark, and early on, whenever the internet was being birthed, he's brilliant, and he bought .coms that meant something, meaning he bought the .coms that sold for millions of dollars by the time he and I were in our 40s. And what .com did I buy whenever the internet was birthing and I knew about the internet birthing? I was there among my peers. I knew about this. I bought tinamarie.com. That's what I did. I bought tinamarie.com and that was it. I stopped there. What? Oh, I got mine. It's like graffiti my name. Okay, cool. No, my friend Mark bought the internet. He bought the internet. And yeah, he's totally a billionaire. So I'm not comparing myself to Mark. I hands down, hats off, praise him. You did awesome. I wish I would have had that brain. Didn't. Cool. So we can do everything in two ways, resistant or receptive. We can be above the line or below the line. Now let's move into our 40s and 50s, or so our 50s. The 50s below the line question would be, oh my God, how much longer can I keep doing these things that define me. We get stuck in that identity. And it could feel boring, it could feel mundane, it could feel painful. It's like, oh, am I ever going to reach the goals that I set out for myself, that my life was supposed to be? Am I going to be there? And that feels like we're on a hamster wheel. I don't want to be on a hamster wheel, do you? So this is above the line perspective on what we could ask ourselves, because these questions happen in our head. We might as well know which great higher energy questions to ask so that we can have results that are life-giving on the outside of that. And so in our 50s, how can I grow even more? That's what we're talking about today, the personal growth and development and the progress in that. How can I grow even more? And from that, who am I becoming so that I can contribute? And have fun with your growth. Like, do something crazy, like learn how to grow mushrooms in your basement. Learn a new instrument that you've never even heard of or didn't even know was an instrument. Learn a new language that has nothing to do with, the economies of scale or monetizing it. Do something simply to do it. And isn't that fun to know that you can? We can. And I guarantee that there's going to be something in those experiences that you would have never been able to predict. There's an awareness, there's an aha moment. There's serendipities, right? Always working for us whenever we live above the line. And another below the line question that we can ask ourselves, especially in our 60s and 70s, is, does anyone know who I used to be? Like we're living in the past, like my heyday was back there and look how shiny that was. And now it's not so shiny. And we compare ourselves to back then. And right now we're like, just ho hum. Nobody remembers what I did in the past, right? Or even, does anybody remember who I am? That's really stuck in identity. That's stuck in all about me, all about who I was, what I did. And over time, that is not fulfilling to the soul in any way, shape, or form. That is definitely stuck in the ego. And because you and I are in personal growth, we do not want to be trapped in our ego. I guarantee it. And so let's move above the line. And what we want to ask ourselves is, who can I mentor? How can I connect? What can I build? And there's key elements here. We want to do it with other people that are awesome, cool, funky, awesome. I mean, like, just gather people around you that you just can't wait to hang out with. And at Bonfire Coaching, we have tons of those people, by the way. And a tribe that is just so authentically cool and for you. They will high five you all day long for your achievements. And we want to mentor other people. We want to take our wisdoms and who we have become and have that, not necessarily, for people to go, well, that's my mentee, that's who I'm mentoring, and look at what they're achieving. That is still of ego. That is still of significance. We want to do those quiet mentorships that allow us to smile inside. I was recently at a meeting for one of my past clients, and he was receiving a year award, a milestone award. And I wanted to be there. He invited me. I was so excited to be there. I was like, yes, he's done so good. I'm so proud of him. And he got up at the podium and he thanked people. He thanked people from his heart. And you can always tell when somebody's nervous, like, oh gosh, I've got to be in front of the mic and I've got to say something when I achieve or receive this award, right? And there was a part of me that was wanting to hear my name. There was a part of me going, I want him to say thank you, because I was part of this journey for him. And then another part of me was saying, you don't need to hear your name. You simply know. You know what you did. You know the words. He's already thanked you many times over, just right in front of you, speaking into your soul, eye to eye. And he's already expressed that gratitude. And so I talked to that part of me that wanted to hear my name through a microphone in this group of people. And I told it to calm down. The truth is, had he said my name in that environment, I think that would have stoked my ego. And I'm grateful that he didn't. He didn't. And then after the meeting outside, we got to gather and I saw into his eyes and he gave me thanks, the special ways that he can, with a hug and a knowing, right? And so when we get to this evolutionary place in our lives, we want to understand that our ego definitely wants attention. And even after it gets that attention, it's not fulfillment. Fulfillment is the soul's calling. And I coined the term today in one of my coaching sessions, a soul ROI. You know, the return on investment for your personal development and the progress you've made in your life, the things that you've overcome, the things that you've gone through, like the fires that have become you, right? We want to cultivate that and sit quietly in our own knowing and take in all you've achieved, all that you've come through. Take it in and smile. Smile for yourself, no one else. Smile for yourself. That's your soul saying thank you. That's your soul saying thank you. And so thank you. Thank you for being here for the Spark of Wisdom. I'm Tina Marie St.Cyr, founder of Bonfire Coaching, and I'm so happy to share this time with you. I'm trusting that there was a takeaway out of our time together today that made your time here absolutely worth it. And if you're called to investigate and have curiosity, then come find the bonfire and see what's here. And share this wonderful podcast with other people so that you can share the spark of wisdom that lights them up as well. Until next time, thank you so much for being one of our fans and one of our listeners. And I wish you the best and know that you are making personal development progress every single day. Have a beautiful rest of your day. High five. Bye-bye.